Well, welcome to another episode of Healthy Thriving Family After Divorce interview series. My name is Stephanie Dobson, and I am the founder and content creator for Up a Notch Learning Inc. And I'm pleased to bring to you today another guest who will bring us some positive and constructive ideas, skills, and tools to help you on your quest to be a healthy, thriving family after divorce. I'm pleased to have today with me Russell Alexander, who is a collaborative lawyer in Ontario, Canada. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting. I love the program that you put on.
Thank you. Thank you. So today, Russell and I will be talking about various topics relating to divorce and technology. These are two topics that, or this is a topic, technology and divorce is a topic that both Russ and I love, and we've both presented on lots of times in the past. So we're really excited to have a bit of a dialogue here. So let's dive in. So
Let's
first,
make a start. Let's get
yeah.
going.
So first, Russ, let's talk about the impact of social media in divorce cases. Let's give our viewers some of the do's and don'ts for people going through their divorce
Right.
with respect to their online presence.
Well, we tell our clients when they come into our office, we have a provision in our retainer agreement, just ask them to be mindful of social media when you're going through the divorce process and after your divorce is over, or if you're just separating, you're not married, the same common sense rules apply. Assume that whatever you write is going to show up somewhere in court. So you don't want to write anything that would embarrass your mother or family, or call into question your capacity to co-parent or encourage the child's relationship with the other parent. Oftentimes, usually things are quite fluid and heated when people are going through a divorce. It could be infidelity, lack of trust, anger. People are different cycles of the divorce process. And sometimes spouses will push each other's buttons, right? They know what to say to get a reaction. And that's by design. So somebody may push your buttons to get a reaction, and then all of a sudden, that nasty text that you sent at 2 a.m. after a glass of wine or a beer shows up in court. And it's very embarrassing, and it really calls into question your character and judgment. The other tip I would say, or the other thing I'm noticing, is you want to protect your child's privacy. So we see lots of people who go through social media and they're blasting pictures of their kids with their new partners across various platforms. Oftentimes, the children don't have a say in the matter. So you want to be mindful of your child's own right to privacy and not be posting things unless it's appropriate.
Yeah, and I just want to pick up on the conflict piece because you were mentioning about that nasty text that gets sent after a glass of wine or a beer, and so often on social media that kind of thing can get exacerbated even more, and it's on even a more public scale. And so
Yeah.
I often recommend to clients certainly to be mindful not only of what you're posting, but also of your own privacy settings. And go through your
Right.
friends list and make sure that you know who's going to be seeing these things. And if you're posting, post only to um, certain limited groups. And I don't mean to post something that's going to create conflict, but just sometimes some of the posts can automatically create conflict. And so, if you're posting a picture with a new partner or something, and you just want to be very mindful of what you're posting and to whom.
Yeah. It might even be an idea not to post anything, right? Or if you're not sure, ask your lawyer to take a look at it. Or if you have a social worker helping you, ask your social worker to take a look at it. But I think a little bit later on in our interview, when we talk about some tools that are available to people who are going through this process.
Yeah. So let's move on to talking about the impact of technology on children during a divorce. So the use of social media and the use and social media on children during a divorce.
We're seeing lots of good things and lots of bad things, Stephanie.
Mhm.
Certainly the good things, that it improves communication and connection. So we have tools like FaceTime, Skype. So if there's an extended period where a child's away from the other parent, they can do a video call to get that connection and have some FaceTime or Skype time with the other parent. Or if the siblings are separated, the siblings can stay connected through technology. So it's really good that way. Or sometimes there's distance, right? People move out of the province or out of the country. and it's not practical to have those daily or weekly connections. So technology kind of fills in that gap where, geography and time are separating children from one parent or the other, or their siblings, or even their grandparents and extended family, which play a very important role in children's lives. Obviously, the bad is when it's weaponized. And what I'm saying is, a parent may say, well, I don't have a device. So the other parent provides the device for the child to use. And then all of a sudden the internet's down, or they've lost the device, or, there's lots of game playing that goes along with technology and lots of excuses. So if somebody wants to, throw up roadblocks, they often do, and it just, further escalates the conflict. But overall, I think technology is good. Anything that can connect children with their families and, look after the best interests of children. Technology, I think, it serves a greater good in terms of helping parents who are going through separation and divorce.
Yeah, and we were talking a moment ago about parents posting things on social media, and I think sometimes kids being resourceful can end up being exposed to conflict when the parents don't intend. So it might be that the parents don't intend for the other parent to see their social posts or their even their text messages. But I know with my kids, they end up on my phone every once in a while, and if they end up seeing going, if you're a divorcing parent and you've got kids that are on your phone and they end up being exposed to conflict
Right.
when you don't intend them to be.
And Stephanie, kids these days, most kids have a smartphone or device, right? It's incredible. It's like a toothbrush now. They walk around with it in their hand, and they're smart. They'll find what's going on between their parents online or otherwise. So you want to be really mindful that the children can access these posts probably quicker and better than you can.
Yeah. So if parents can model that positive behavior and creating some healthy posts and some healthy communication, then it lessens that possible negative interaction for the kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about communication. We've been talking about texting, but well, let's dive into that a little bit deeper, talking about digital communication and how that's affected divorce negotiations and communication in general between parents.
Yeah. I think this is a great question, Stephanie. Judges will say they'll get an affidavit if there's a dispute. So that's evidence that's filed with the court by your lawyer, basically telling your story. But oftentimes, Stephanie, in these affidavits, the lawyer or the client will want the text messages to be attached as an exhibit, to demonstrate something. They're being mean, or they're not being accommodating, or they're not acting in the child's best interests. Most judges will tell you in open court, they don't want that kind of evidence. It's hearsay. It's not evidence properly before the court. That's what they say. But then they go in the chambers, and the first thing they do is go to the tab where the text messages are, and they read the text messages. I know this because judges tell me this. And they can tell fairly quickly who's playing games and who's causing trouble by going through the text messaging, right? There's usually some instigator, or somebody's being a bit obtuse or rude or not accommodating. And so judges, although they say it's not evidence, often look to these messages to find out what's going on. Because in an affidavit, the lawyer can clean it up, dress it up, make it look appropriate for the court. In a text message you sent it to in the morning, it's kind of raw, right? You're talking about your emotions and what you're really thinking about this other parent. So that's something you want to be mindful of. Another thing you want to be mindful of, Stephanie, is you can try to delete these messages or scrub them. That's not going to work. If the other counsel is sophisticated, they'll find this information. I'll just give you one example. Most people don't know about this. On Facebook, there's an option. There's an option called export. So you may have deleted it from your device, but we can go directly to Facebook and have Facebook export all the activity you've done on Facebook. So what sites you visited, what communications you've been posting, what you've been saying about other people. And we get it directly from Facebook in an export file. So you may have thought, okay, I've reset my phone. Doesn't matter. We can get all the information directly from the social media platform. And then if you lie to the court about what you did or didn't do, and we find out that the exported information from Facebook is inconsistent with what you're saying, now you've lost your credibility. The court's not going to believe you. It's not going to trust you. It's not going to act on any of the relief that you want to seek from the court. So you can really use this technology. You can dig yourself into a deep hole when you start playing games with it. The other thing we're seeing more of, Stephanie, is deep fakes. So we have, fairly sophisticated technology now. People are creating fake text message streams and creating evidence that is simply not true. It's just a fraud. And courts are getting pretty sophisticated at spotting deep fake evidence. So if you send in to the court with your affidavit a text message string saying, here's what my husband's or my wife's conduct has been, the court finds that that is actually a deep fake, you created it, it was never sent, you're not, again, it's going to impact your case very badly. You'll probably be required to pay the other side's legal fees and costs. You'll likely, your ability to parent will be questioned, may limit your time with your children. So you got to be really careful when you're looking at, how this digital information is being used, whether it's being used appropriately, and whether somebody's up to mischief.
Yeah, and there's the old saying about this inadvertent conflict escalation that can transpire when parties are using these kind of text messaging and any other kind of written messaging, especially text. Other kinds of messaging seems to be a little bit better, but with the text messaging and how quick it is back and forth, we can have, I tend to see a lot of inadvertent conflict escalation, and these emotionally charged responses that if you had a bit of time to think things through, it would be a lot better of a communication, which it leads to distance, and it leads to misunderstanding between parties. So one of the things I do when I meet with clients is I really try to get that communication piece under control as soon as possible, not only with social media like Facebook and Instagram, but also text messaging, and how those written communications are done between the parties, and trying to get them off of text message as quickly as possible.
Well, I may be dating myself, but in the old days, right prior to all this, if you wanted to say something to somebody, you met them in the schoolyard and told it to their face, right? So now people get behind the keyboard and say anything. It's incredible, right? So the nature of the communication has changed. But for the purposes of our discussion today, if you're going through a separation divorce, you need to be super mindful of what you're saying and what you're typing, because it could impact your case and your relationship with your children. It will certainly impact your relationship with your other spouse or your former spouse.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about some of the tools or resources that you recommend for clients who are navigating the intersection of technology and divorce.
Yeah, lots of good tools and apps out there. You want to be mindful of the costs, and you're going to need certain technology to use it. Most people have an iPhone or a smart device. If you live in a rural or remote community, you may not have the connection or the bandwidth to use some of these tools. So we want to be mindful of that, sort of digital divide. But I'd say about 97% of the Canadian population has access to high-speed internet now, which is a pretty incredible statistic. So some tools and tips. One we recommend a lot to my clients, My Family Wizard. Lots of great features in that. You can, they'll tell you, it'll rate the tone of your message, whether it's appropriate and inappropriate in the sentiment. Courts have been recommending to some of my associate lawyers an app called appclose.com. That's appclose.com. It's a co-parenting app, which is kind of interesting. I haven't used it, but lots of people on my team have used it and like it. You can go to government websites, a very valuable resource of information. So you can access online child and spousal support calculators. It may not be exact exactly accurate. It may not be the most current version, but it'll give you an estimate in terms of what these ranges of support may look like. But there's a number of factors you need to consider, especially when it comes to spousal support. So you're going to want to talk to a lawyer and a qualified expert before you rely on these online products. But those are just a few of them that you should be considering, Stephanie.
Yeah, and I should just mention to our viewers, for Our Family Wizard as the app, we do have a demo of Our Family Wizard here within our interview series. The one of the regional representatives of Our Family Wizard did an interview series with me to give clients a little bit of an idea of what that might look like. The other thing I had thought of as well is some shared cloud storage. So sometimes clients or parties want to end up sharing photos, sharing documents, sharing information about medical records, that kind of thing. Certainly, there's lots of those shared cloud storage and document management platforms out there that are some of them are free, lots of them are free, and that could really help to make sure that everyone has access to all of the documents that are necessary. Even, photocopies of or scanned in copies of health cards and birth certificates or passports, so that everyone has all of the numbers that they may need for whatever purpose.
Great tips. Yeah, I agree with all that.
So in what way can technology be a helpful resource for individuals, such as things like accessing online support groups, accessing educational resources? Of course, we have Up a Notch Learning, that's an educational resource for families. But let's talk a little bit about some of the other online support groups or educational resources.
Well, certainly you've got your program. We produce a lot of content as well. So lots of content on the internet that you can access. I would lean towards government sites, whatever province you live in. Federal government has great information, especially with respect to travel and domestic violence. Whatever source you're going to, if it's produced by a lawyer or government, there's a good chance you can rely on it. Lots of the information on the internet you got to be careful with. It may not be relevant to your jurisdiction or may not be accurate. We're going to talk a little bit about AI in a few comments, some of my tips and tricks, but AI, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT can be a good starting point, but you got to be very careful. You may not be getting accurate research and information. So my advice in terms of that, you're always going to want to talk to a qualified professional before you act or sign any documents that you're finding on the internet.
Yeah. And interestingly, some of these apps these co-parenting apps that we were talking about actually have some online conflict resolution AI included within it. And I know that your firm operates, using Zoom quite often, and my firm as well operates using Zoom. And so there's lots of ways that you can get professional services in a cost-effective way and really in a convenient way. So that's really helped to bring conflict resolution tools to your own home.
Yeah, just to talk about technology and how it's changed. Let's just look back a couple of years pre-pandemic. The biggest complaint about our family court system, it was took too long to get a resolution, and it cost too much. Mm-hmm. The pandemic forced us to pivot. We had to move to digital. So instead of, the court system has been using paper for 200 years. They had to move to a digital filing system so you can file your documents electronically. And then they had to shut down the courts and only deal with urgent matters because of the pandemic. We couldn't meet in person. So that caused the court to switch to what I call Zoom divorce. So using digital platforms like Zoom or Skype conduct court hearings. So I'm a huge fan of this for a number of reasons, Stephanie. I really like the idea of remote access to the justice system. There's a number of advantages of it to it. It's not just judges I'm talking about. You can access your lawyer, you can access family professionals, you can access social workers. So I know a social worker in Toronto who provides services 18 hours away to clients in North Bay remotely. Had we not had the technology, she would not be able to offer her services to those communities. So huge advantage. Just think of a typical day in court prior to the pandemic, Stephanie. You drive to court. First, you get prepared, drive to court. That could be, an hour up to 3 hours if you're living remotely. Not everybody has access to busing and transportation and subways. You would then have to park. Well, you deal with traffic first, and then you have to park and pay for parking, go through court security, go to a courthouse with maybe 40 or 50 other families and wait your turn to be called. You might get called or you might not. The court might not have time to hear your case that day. Pay your hours, 7-hour fee for your lawyer to sit around, and then drive back home. That was the experience for most families going to court, which is unfortunate. Now, with technology stuff, we can have a Zoom or Skype call set for 10 o'clock. Your hearing starts on time. It's over in 45 minutes. You can do it from the safety and privacy of your own home. You can have a support dog or friend in the room to help you. If you're a victim of domestic violence, you don't have to face your spouse 10 feet away from you in a courthouse. And it's good for the environment, right? We're not spending money on gas, which most people can't afford these days. You have a smaller carbon footprint, and you're not dealing with the traffic and the parking and the waiting. So technology has really flipped the court system on its head, made it much more efficient. There's a bit of a debate. Some judges want us to return to in-person hearings. I disagree with that, except for maybe some very limited cases that require in-person hearings, such as enforcement of court orders or if somebody's not paying support. Other than that, I think the rest can be done remotely. And technology, ultimately what it does, Stephanie, is it stretches out your legal budget, right? So you may have this amount of money to pay for your lawyer. You have to go to 1 or 2 in-person court hearings. That's gone, right? For 10, 14 hours. You can just do it in 1-hour segment. Your legal budget goes much further. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, and different jurisdictions around the world are handling that differently, and some are actually gone back to the in-person without any options for online. So hopefully your jurisdiction, to our viewers, hopefully your jurisdiction is one that does still allow that Zoom.
It's still a struggle. In Ontario, we have hybrid hearings. So more administrative hearings are remote. Settlement trial focused hearings are more in person, but we're still trying to find the sweet spot. There's still a bit of a struggle, but I personally think it can all be done remotely, but that's my view.
Yeah, my view as well. I agree. Let's come back to your firm level and talk about what your firm has done for technological changes to help families who are going through their separation and divorce and improve their client experience using technology.
Yeah. Well, first thing we did, and we were doing this prior to the pandemic, is we moved to digital, which is great. So documents can be sent and received electronically. You don't need to wait for the mail to come. You don't need to attend at your lawyer's office. We were using cloud-based programs, which make it very accessible for clients to access the information. We provide training to clients, so not everybody knows how to use Zoom or DocuSign or Adobe Read. So we provide training to help the clients get used to the technology. So for example, if we're going to court, we'll do a test run on Zoom just to make sure the technology is working and give basically Zoom etiquette tips to the clients. You can pay electronically. You can everything's done electronically. So there's not really many reasons to come into the office. There's some people who still want to sit down and meet with their lawyer, just like there's some people who want to go see their bank teller. They don't want to use the ATM, and that's fine too. That relationship and that connection is important. But I think it's really changed the system for the better, because what it's doing is it's making the people who deliver legal services, lawyers, social workers, family professionals, financial professionals, is made them more efficient, which means they can help more families, and more families can now access the justice system at a lower cost.
Yeah, Russ, as I was thinking about this question, I was also thinking about what kind of technological changes we've made at our firm. And while we've done all of the things that you're describing, we do all of our services by Zoom. We do have we have a client portal for each client to be able to upload their documents and download documents that we put on. I think that's what you were referring to about the electronic
Right.
submission. Of course, you can, I feel like it's old school already to say you can email your documents in, but it's not really that old school. So yeah, the electronic submission of your documents. Some clients are still wondering if they have to come in to give us their documents, and we say, please don't. Please don't. Then we
Well,
have to scan everything in. So
I was actually in the office this week and one of my assistants said I have to send a fax. I go, what? You got to send a fax? People
what's
are
that?
still using fax machines. Remember those things?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
The other thing that we've done is we were able to, through our phone system, able to get texting with clients, and goodness, how efficient that has made our calendaring and our questions to and from our clients. Because so many of our clients were not answering phones and they were not responding to emails. Some clients don't check their emails very often, and so we find that the text message thread with our office seems to work really, really well.
yeah, and much more instantaneous as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But you got to be mindful. We use text messaging, but you got to be really careful because everything we do is subject to solicitor client privilege. Sometimes the phone's not secure, right? The other spouse may see the phone, and then we'll see our messages,
Yeah.
especially if it's an abusive relationship. So you
Yeah.
got to be really careful in terms of what communication is going to be best and safe for the
That's
client.
a really good point for us. We don't do anything substantive by text message. So for us, it's only, billing questions or appointment scheduling, or, minor questions that our admin staff can access. The lawyers don't use text message for their communication with the clients. It's just the assistants, and that's really worked well for us. If there is something substantive, because sometimes clients don't know the difference, if there is something substantive that goes on the text message, we usually respond saying, please send an email, or we'll arrange a phone call with me to go over that question. So we don't do
We
anything
we do
substantive.
a lot of online form fills, and it's powered by AI, so artificial intelligence. So again, pre-pandemic, you're going to go, let's just say hypothetically, Stephanie, you're going through a divorce, you'd come in, meet with me, we'd go through your background, right? Relationship dates, incomes, children's ages, um, assets you brought into the marriage, deductions, exclusions, support, all this information is usually 30 to 45 minutes just to get your background information so I can get to know you. Now, with our form fills, you can do all that at home. Because sometimes if we were meeting first, you may not have your pension statement, or you'd have to go find something and come back. So now you can do that all at home. AI generates a report for me, so that 30 or 45 minutes is now summarized, which means when we do meet, I can start talking about your goals and interests and give you some substantive legal advice. So
Mhm.
that's a really simple example of how technology is making us much more efficient, not just on the legal side, but for the clients as well. They're not making multiple trips to the office. They can assemble all their documents at home. They know exactly what information we're going to need because it's in the form that they fill out. And
Yeah.
then they get a copy of that as well at the end of it. So they'll have, a summary of everything they need to know and what is going to be relevant when they go meet with their lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Russ, we're at my favorite part of every interview, which is my top 3 tips. So in all interviews, I like to have people walk away with those practical tips. We've given lots of practical tips so far, but let's hear it from you. What would be your top 3 tips on technology in divorce?
Well, Stephanie, first of all, thank you for having me on. This is a great series that you put together, and you're doing a great service to your clients and the public. So I deeply appreciate the opportunity to be here. So 3 tips. First tip number one, if you are using technology, let's just say Skype or Zoom, and you have a court hearing at 10 o'clock, do not update your software. So if it's 9:55 and your court starts at 10 and it says, do you want to update your Zoom thing? Don't do it, because that means you're not going to get into the court hearing until 10:10. You're going to be late. You're going to be flustered. You're going to get a very bad experience. So I've got lots of clients who are new to the technology and show up to court late, all stressed out because the software went to update. Tip number 2, do test runs. So if you're using technology for the first time, and if you're going to go to court or if you're having a settlement meeting, do a test run. So at my office, my law clerks will do a test run with the clients before we have the hearing or the settlement meeting, just so they know how all the buttons work. You may be good with it on your laptop, but when you go to use your phone, the buttons move around. You might not be able to find the buttons, and you'll be too distracted from focusing on the hearing or the settlement process, trying to figure out how the technology works. So take 10, 15, 20 minutes, do a test run, build in some redundancy. So what I'm suggesting here, Stephanie, have a battery backup, have a second device. If you're going to be traveling when you have a court hearing, a settlement hearing, think about whether or not you're going to have a good internet connection, whether you can do a hotspot. If you're going to be in a remote area where you know there's a bad connection, then you're going to want to either not travel that particular route or change a court date or settlement hearing. So build in some redundancies. The devices are going to fail. You're going to run out of battery, or your computer is going to die. Have a backup system in place. So that way, if it's an important hearing, you're going to be able to participate. I guess my final tip today would be to be careful of AI, artificial intelligence, chat GPT. Super powerful tool. I've written a book on it. We're adopting AI into our everyday practice at the law firm. But garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't know the right question to ask, you're going to get a bad answer. Most people don't know the language that lawyers use and the terms that the court want addressed. If you don't know the right question, so if you have the right question and you can ensure it's relevant to your particular jurisdiction, you're going to get a fairly good result. I'm not sure if I'd rely on it in a courtroom, but it's going to move you in the right direction. If you're asking an incorrect question, then you're going to get a result that's completely useless. The other thing that we've experienced, and there's some reported news stories and cases on this, is it's super risky when you use it to do research. So the databases are usually 2 years old, and we're seeing that AI has this so what you just saw there was an example of building in redundancy, because your technology could fail, which is what just happened to me. My battery died and I went blank. So great teaching moment. But what I was saying on my third tip, be careful with AI, because when doing research, we're finding it will hallucinate. So what happened to a lawyer in New York, it's called Avianca Air. And long story short, this particular lawyer had a problem with the limitation period. The client was on an airline and got bumped by the food cart going up and down and was injured. So the state limitation period was different than the federal one and needed to do some research on it. Went to AI. AI created all these cases that were entirely fake. And within the cases, they were citing fake cases and handed this factum into the court for argument. The only problem is the other lawyer and the judge couldn't find any of these cases, and they realized it was done by AI. All the cases were entirely fake, and the lawyer got all this bad press and had to pay legal fees because he relied on AI to produce his legal work. So that's my tip number 3. AI is a powerful tool, but be very cautious when using it and don't rely on it for research.
Well, those are some great tips. Thank you so much, Russell, for those tips and for our entire episode for joining us today on healthy, thriving family after divorce in our interview series. And thanks to our viewers for tuning in. Please check out the other episodes in our interview series, as well as all of the other positive and constructive resources and courses available in our platform to keep you empowered and to help you to thrive in your transition into two homes. We'll see you next time. Thanks again, Russell.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.